Senate set to reconvene at noon. There is a measure on the table. It could potentially fund the government through Thanksgiving, also including some full-year funding for some agencies, but not all. And so we will watch that closely. Meantime, we mentioned the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy. He actually spoke just moments ago. We're told this is in, this is in D.C., and addressing what we're seeing today. Let's listen into what he had to say.
I necessarily didn't want to give the data because some people might say, well, you're at 10%, it should be at 15%. Others might say it should be at 5%. It is not a science, it is an art that we're trying to deploy to keep people safe in the airspace. And we're trying to prevent the pressure that we now see building in the system. There's a very easy solution. Let's open the government up. Let's pay our controllers and reduce the pressure. That's not happening. The Senate actually is going home this weekend. As many people here can't get home, the Senate goes home. They should be here every day, every weekend, every week trying to find a deal so we can open the government back up.
Mr. Secretary.
I'm not done. I want to talk to you about the data. So first, some have asked what's happened in the airspace. So a few points that we look at that are sending us in the wrong direction. Right? So number one, loss of separation in the airspace. So that's the minimum distance we keep between aircraft to keep them safe. We've seen breaches, more breaches in regard to that loss of separation. We see more incursions on tarmacs throughout the country. And we have more complaints from pilots about stress from our air traffic controllers and more complaints about the lack of responsiveness from controllers. So that data is going in the wrong direction, not in the right direction, which made us make the decision we have to actually take additional measures to reduce the pressure in our system. I want to make one comparison. I'm getting sniped at by some Democrats. I don't like it. I didn't put us in this situation. They did. We were here 10 months ago, and I want to make a comparison only in regard to this. The FAA didn't look at the data to say there were near misses in this airspace between helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft. They didn't see the data. We learned from that. So now I'm looking at the data and seeing pressure, and we're going to take action. The safety team at the FAA reviewed that data. The administrator looked at it. These are the recommendations that have come from the FAA safety team. But you want us to look at what we see with regard to data and make really good decisions to keep people safe. That's what we've done today. I think it's the right decision. And again, I want to hear from passengers. Ready to take your questions or anyone else.
How would you rate the airline's response, and what would you say to passengers who are frustrated with cancellations and delays?
The airlines have been good partners. They don't love this. They're going to lose millions of dollars because of this. It's challenging for them to take down flights. And to those passengers that are upset, listen, call your Democrat senator. 14 times they voted no to open up the government. Those in the House that are sniping at me, they voted no to open up the government. And again, you can have votes. There's a process on how this is supposed to work in the Congress. Shutdowns are not the way you get your will in your way if you've lost elections. You introduce bills, you debate, you vote. That's what you do. And if you can't get what you want, you don't shut the government down and inflict this pain on the American people. Yes.
At what point should passengers expect international flights?
I'm sorry, what's that?
At what point are international flights impacted?
So international flights are not going to be impacted, and there's a reason for that. I appreciate the question. We have international agreements that we abide by. And because of those international agreements, I'm not going to impact those international flights. And because if I do, what will happen is we have other countries that are waiting to have a breach of those contracts from the U.S. so they can cut down American flights, and that would have a very long-lasting impact on our ability to send travelers from the U.S. to those partnering countries that have the agreements.
When we spoke on Wednesday, we talked about 10% as the number. I asked you, did you think about doing a lesser number? You guys ended up going to 4%. If 4% is to work today, could you increase it even more than 1% daily? Could we go up more?
That's a great question. So we had talked about 10%.
Yep.
As I reviewed that with the safety team at the FAA, they said The safest way to do this is to get to 10%, to do a step approach, and do it. We're doing it at 4%, and then as you see, 4 days later we do 2 days later we do another 2, and then 2 days after that we're at 10%. They thought, from the safety team and the administrator, that was the best way to do this and the safest way to do this, which is why that's what we rolled out.
Secretary, can you clarify
if it's 10% across all flights across America or 10% impact on the 40 airports that you have?
It's the 40 airports. So we're doing 10% on the 40 airports. That's where we saw the most pressure.
So how many flights per day is that? Because it's not 4,500, right? It's going to be less than that.
So it's going to be 4% today in regard to those 40 airports. And again, we're going to step ladder that up to get to 10% next week. The exact number I can't give you. And I don't want to see the disruption. I don't want to see the delays. Now, there could be a benefit if I can get the controllers to come back to work. I asked the head of the Air Traffic Controller Union to reach out to his controllers, to ask them to show up. It is their jobs. If they start coming to work, we may have the same experience we had in Newark. We had delays and cancellations in Newark in the early summer. We reduced the capacity, and then the flights were on time. Right, we had less cancellations, less delays. It was the most on-time months we had at Newark ever. So that could be an outcome of what we're doing. And we'll see probably more people on less flights, which means less pressure on control.
Sir, have you spoken to the president today? Any expectation he has in the middle of this tense situation across the country?
So I haven't talked to the president today, but I've talked to the president. I've talked to the White House. They're fully read in on what we're doing. And when I look to the safety team, the White House also looks to the safety team to help us make the right decisions, to do the best we can to keep people safe. But there's an easy answer. There's an easy answer. Open up the government. Stop this. And by the way, when I was in Congress, we had shutdowns. I stayed here for a month. I didn't fly home. I sat in my office, working on deals, working on solutions. Why are senators going home? If you can vote 14 times to keep the government shut down and create this gridlock in our airports, and you're going to go home, they should sit here. Like Americans sit in airports, they should sit in their offices. They should sit in the Senate and figure out how they're going to come up with a deal to open this back up and not use the American people as leverage. You had a question?
Can you talk about the morale of the air traffic controllers right now? Obviously, long hours, some are not coming to work, unpaid for the last couple of weeks. What's the morale like?
So, listen, you don't get paid. You're stressed about paying for your families, food on the table. There is stress, and we see that. They're not happy, but you know what? Most of these men and women are great professionals. I've told you this, we don't have the best equipment, we do have the best controllers. And they work really hard, and they care deeply about keeping Americans safe through our airspace. And I'm grateful to them for that. But let's not lie about the pressure they're under. What's happened is a lot of the same controllers come to work every single day. We have that group, then we have another group that has a longer record of not showing up. And so the ones who do come to work, they're the ones that are working 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. And you can do that, all of you guys work big hours. You can do that for a couple weeks, but at one point you're going to get burned out. You're going to get burned out. And that's what we're seeing now. There's a higher level of fatigue with the controllers because they've been doing this for a long time as we've tried to mitigate the impact of the shutdown. But now when we see numbers go in the wrong direction, the data go in the wrong direction, we have to take preemptive action to meet our obligation. First one is keep the airspace safe. That is the first job we have. And by the way, at DOT, we do a lot of things. A lot of things. This is the most important. And that's why we're taking the action today. I'll do one more question.
Even if the government does reopen next week, when could we start to see flights resume as normal? Could this spill into Thanksgiving and the holiday season?
It's a great question. So if the government opens on day one, will I see an immediate response from controllers? No, the union is telling me it's going to take time to get them all back in. Okay, I don't wish this was the circumstance in which I was dealing with. So I imagine as we see the data change and more controllers come to work, we are as quickly as possible going to take these restrictions away. That's the best approach. But we have to look at how many controllers come to work. And how long that takes after the government opens back up. And here's what's hard for us. It's not one tower. It's not one TRACON. It's not one community. One day it's LA. The next day.
All right, folks, we'll definitely keep you updated on the travel situation as we go on throughout the day. But the big headline here, cancellations and delays nationwide, including at Charlotte Douglas International. We know that there is a flight reduction underway because of the ongoing government shutdown and the fact that that is leading to staffing shortages from folks who essentially get the travel industry off and running. So